Two of Canada's men's World Junior hockey teams are now being investigated by police following alleged group sexual assaults in 2003 and 2018. Halifax Regional Police have confirmed that they are investigating an alleged incident that it describes as a group sex assault in that city in 2003. Hockey Canada released a statement saying that it became aware of the 2003 allegations after it was contacted by TSN's Rick Westhead. The 2018 World Junior team was already involved in a controversy over Hockey Canada's handling of a sexual assault allegation. London police say they reviewed their handling of the initial 2018 probe and are now reopening that criminal investigation. Let's bring in CP24's Jamie Goodfriend, who's following this story for us. And Jamie, it's like more and more information, more details continue to unfold.
Yeah, obviously very disturbing allegations that we're hearing about today. We've been following the 2018 incident and allegations, and now we're learning more about something that happened about 20 years ago. And with more on this, I want to bring in Ari Goldkind, criminal defense lawyer. Thanks for joining us, Ari. First off, is there a statute of limitations in Canada? And can someone who's facing allegations dating back over 20 years, can they still be charged?
Yes, so that's a very, very good question. Our Supreme Court, when it came to civil matters, made it clear even for lawsuits, and remember, the Hockey Canada scandal developed because of a settlement, a confidential settlement. We don't know how much the young woman received for the 2018 allegations. There could be something that we'll learn about from 2003, but the short answer is there's no statute of limitations for claims of sexual abuse once our Supreme Court ruled a number of years ago. And even is the same answer for criminal matters. A lot of people find that surprising, but for claims of sexual assault of a criminal nature, there is no statute of limitations there either.
All right, you and I have covered many high-profile cases, sexual assault cases, and we know time and time again how difficult it is to prove these allegations, especially in the absence of forensic evidence. So let's talk about some of the challenges that police investigators will have to collect evidence, and also for prosecutors taking this to court. What kind of challenges will they have eventually down the road?
My first answer is that this will never end up in court. You're seeing a political exercise sort of morph into the legalities of this. In 2018, despite changes in how policing work, pressure on police forces to always lay charges as the result of a Globe and Mail piece called Unfounded. Obviously, Scott Williams, the London police chief, knows there's a PR scandal afoot, so he says, we'll reopen it. I don't expect this to ever see the inside of a criminal courtroom or a civil courtroom. This is a scandal to me in how this is being told. That being said, if you look at the 2003 incident, we don't know anything about that. We have no evidence of any sort right now. But when you go back 19 years, that becomes extremely difficult to prosecute, not only because of memories, forensic evidence, or a lack of, but you're also going to have, just on an obvious notion, a situation of she said versus about 8 he's. That becomes very difficult for a police service and especially a Crown attorney to overcome.
Let's go to the 2018 allegations. We learned today that London police have reopened their investigation into this case. And London police says that through a review, they have determined that further investigative opportunities are available to them. And as such, the criminal investigation has been reopened to allow these opportunities to be explored. Ari, what does that tell you about the kind of information police may have obtained that led them to reopen that investigation?
It tells me nothing to change my view that, again, this is a response to the political and sponsorship scandal. One always has to follow the money in these kinds of things. Scott Williams was under a lot of pressure. And here's what people watching wouldn't know. In 2018, these claims by this alleged victim were investigated by a sexual assault and child abuse team of the London police. They would bend over backwards and do cartwheels to lay charges if they could. This is, again, post-Gomeshi, after there was an outcry in the Globe and Mail that changed sexual assault forever in this country. So the fact that he has come out and said, we'll pursue additional avenues, unless there is some smoking gun that's different than we know about, the text, the videos, to me, this is an exercise, again, perhaps on his part, in very, very good PR, but I would suggest that we are not going to see criminal charges laid. And if we do, the idea that there will be a conviction in this matter, I think, is going to be extremely difficult, if not impossible.
We've also learned this week that there was a national equity fund that was basically created by Hockey Canada to settle these sexual assault claims. It begs the question, how many of these claims are in the process of being dealt with, how many have been dealt with in the past, but also it really highlights what's going on, the controversy down at Hockey Canada. But I want to ask you, as a criminal defense lawyer, Ari, for any of these hockey players that were on these teams, what would your advice be to these individuals, especially for any of them who might know of information of what happened, might have evidence? What would you tell them?
Well, it depends on what evidence they come to me as their criminal defense lawyer. The first thing I'd say is that it was tone deaf of Hockey Canada to say these players will participate or else. That's not how it works in Canada. We don't compel people to give evidence on themselves. If a client came to me and had nothing to hide, and clearly there was no risk to them, I'd either tell them, use your conscience, come forward if you want. But again, you're dealing with 8 people, some of them in the NHL now. So the advice would be very, very different depending on what role, if any, they had. And I would also want to know what role, if any, they had in the investigation in 2018 when they were unnamed. So it's a sort of a question that depends on what role, if any, they participated. But I don't think a lot of lawyers here will be running to the police station to say, hey, my client wants to talk, my client wants to talk. The ones we're seeing are the ones we're hearing say, I wasn't there that day, don't lump me in.
Criminal defense lawyer Ari Goldkind, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Bakari, as a result of these latest allegations, we know that government funding has been cut to Hockey Canada. They've also lost several corporate sponsorships. We'll have a lot more on the story throughout the afternoon and evening. Back to you.
Yeah, 2 big points, Jamie. Thank you so much. CP24's Jamie Goodfriend. Still with this story, Minister of Sport Pascal St-Onge is reacting to today's developments with a statement saying, quote, today we learned of yet another horror story that allegedly occurred in 2003. Once again, like all Canadians, I'm appalled and angry. It's clear that the culture of silence and the trivialization of sexual violence is well entrenched in the culture of this sport. Hockey Canada has a lot of work to do on this issue before they regain the trust of Canadians. Anyone with information about the events of 2003 or any other such event should report it to the police.